Do you want this? How do you want this?
I think right there's fine. We're live. Sam Smathers.
Hey.
Awesome. Yeah, the headphones just help, kind of to your own voice. Like as you're fading away, you can kind of hear it in real time.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, as long as that mic's picked up enough, cool. Sam Smathers, great to have you here.
Thank you, Tyler.
Yeah, fish, whatever you want. You can call me Fish, man.
Okay.
Whatever. Yeah.
Well, I know Catfish when I coached you in youth football, and Tyler Worth Bailey. When I coached you in youth football, so that was years ago. But yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, Sam. How did you get to Athens? Were you always here?
No. I moved. I grew up in Bartlett, Ohio.
Bartlett, Ohio.
Okay, it's 22 miles from here.
Okay.
On 550, and when you're sitting downtown Bartlett. Downtown quote Bartlett. There's a sign that says Marietta 23 miles and Athens 22, or vice versa, whatever it is. So you got to go one place or the other.
Gotcha.
And so I chose the via up and down the East Coast, school hard knocks 9 times after I graduated, and that's where I got my education basically. And then moved back. I went to Athens. And started in '87, I think it was '86.
In Athens.
Yeah, and I worked. Ohio midnights. I worked day shift at a dealership in Logan. I mean, just and got on as an electrician with Sun Electric, and met my wife and at the Firehouse Pizza it used to be. Met her there, and so we settled down, got married in '87, and.
Have you always been right there in front of the high school?
Yep.
Wow.
That's the one. We've been transients, my mom, and this, that, and the other, raising 6 kids and all that stuff. But anyway, I vowed that when it was my turn to settle down, I wouldn't put my kids through none of that.
Nice.
We're moving, we're staying in one spot, and we stayed there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, boys lived right behind the high school, football field, and 5 free home games a year.
Yeah.
and enjoy that. And but, no, we, like I said, just got into it, and family life, and then baseball, t-ball. Alan, my oldest boy, Alan, and of course Trisha's our middle child. She's just like me, and then Stanley's our youngest, and so they all got into sports. And of course I played sports when I was growing up, and so got them into it and started coaching their t-ball teams. And
is that what got you into coaching originally? Just coaching your kids?
Just coaching my kids, and then and I said, get them started, and then it turned into. Hey, can you coach a Little League team? The Plains 2 or Plains 1, whatever it was. And I said, yeah. So we got into the Little League and did that through my boys, time. And
was Sandlot even around when your kids were?
No, actually, Stanley was the last team to win the Little League championship and go to Cambridge.
And this is where they were playing, where we practiced at, like Smathers Field, right? Is that where they were playing before?
No, yes.
Yeah.
We had games there.
Yeah.
We played at the girls' softball field. Back then, Little League was Morrison had their own team, East, West.
Yeah, and it was like a Power 105 would like sponsor a team.
No.
How
yes, I see what you mean. Yeah. We were Hartman O'Neill Insurance in the Plains and Shake Shop in the Plains.
Okay.
We had 2 Plains teams, had a Chansey team, had an Amesville team.
Cool.
So each of them had their own. You had wherever your school you lived in is where you had to play, and those are the boundaries.
Gotcha.
And so Stanley's 12 years old, and when he went to 7th grade, they said this is the last year for Little League. They disbanded the charter, and then Sandlot started. And they said, well, with the age change, you can go to 7th grade and play junior high ball, or you can play one more year of Little League Sandlot. Yeah. So he played one more year of that, and we had fun with it. But that was the first year Sandlot started. And now this year I went back and coached Sandlot baseball because my grandson is 8 years old. So I helped coach. Alan, my son, was the coach, and I helped with this 8U team, and we had a blast.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So kind of full circle thing there.
Yeah. So started with baseball. When did you get into coaching like youth football? Was it also just following your kids?
Yeah, we of course I live where I live, right beside high school, and I watched and I always tease Nathan White about it. I watched Ryan Adams play football there.
That's so
and I watched.
oh my God.
So, I watched him play there, and he went on to OU and played. And I watched Nathan White come up and play. And, of course, Ryan Adams is here we weren't too bad. I think it was the last year we beat Logan. That's been years ago, and 89, 90, somewhere around there.
Damn.
And so then the 90s came along. Boy, we were pathetic. Athens was, 2-3 win seasons. Maybe a 4 or 5 win season here and there.
Yikes!
But I said, "Where's our youth program at?"
Who's our head coach? Is this Chaplin still? Who's our coach right now? Or
back then?
Yeah, when Adams is playing.
Gasser.
I don't know if I know who that is.
Yeah, he was there for a while, but so there was no youth program.
Mm-hmm.
Like Nelsonville has a youth program, Alexander had a youth program, Logan, Trimble. We didn't have one.
So literally, you couldn't play football till 7th grade.
Correct.
Oh shit.
And I said, well, we can't do that.
Yeah.
And I said, so I went and talked to Mr. Grippa, Dr. Grippa, principal.
Paul, shout out.
And I said, can we use the auditorium? I'm gonna have a meeting, forum, hometown, blah blah blah. Anybody interested? Come. Me and Jimmy Wallace, a friend of mine, got it together and had coaches from other teams, Eric Dean and blah blah blah. They came in and spoke and said, the pros and cons of full contact football for kids.
How was this received at the time? Because we didn't have one. Did more parents show up than you thought, or was there 4 people in the room?
No, there was a good amount of people,
nice.
And a lot of the Athens liberal, who were scared to death the kid's going to get hurt, but didn't understand the concept that if you take a 70-pound kid and fully clothe him in a helmet and shoulder pads, he can't build up enough steam to hit another kid, that weighs 70 type thing, and, but you have athletes come along, but that's the way but I said, we just need to teach these kids to get them ready. Mm-hmm. So we're not looking on Friday nights at these, dismal seasons that we've had.
Yeah.
And so that's when it all started, 96, 94, 96, or 95.
Yeah.
They started a youth program here, and I started coaching the very next year.
That's crazy.
When Alan was in 3rd grade.
Wow, yeah, okay.
So then I took it there, and then the board said, we're done after about 4 years. And I said, well, I'll take over, So Terry and I, funny story, she didn't show up for the meeting. And they said, well, who's going to run the concessions and the cheerleading? And I said, oh, my wife will do it. And I went home and gave her the good news. And she said, do what? And I said, and she'd never done anything like that, concessions and everything.
Are you just playing at our Basil Rudder? What was your plan?
Yeah, we played at our Basil and practiced over up on the hill.
Yeah, okay, where the band's at.
Yeah, where the band's at, down in the pit.
Yeah, all around.
And then we finally ended up over at Smathers Field, which is, they sold.
What, are they putting a building there?
Hopewell Clinic, Health Clinic.
I see.
Grip and
it's a shame.
The people sold it. Yeah, our school board. Anyway, so it's gone. But anyway, we took over and started running it and kept all the equipment in our garage, the whole 9. You know the story.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Mondays after a game, hey, we're going to Sam's garage. We're going to watch it on TV. We're not having practice, We have ice cream. Well, you remember.
Oh, yeah.
And so
I still remember the very first day walking into your garage and getting my first practice jersey. My number was 52 until middle school because you gave me a practice jersey number 52, and I went, 52 is my fucking number. I'm 52.
I'm 52.
I still remember that day. I don't know why, but I remember getting my very first practice jersey.
So you thought 52 was...
I was like, you gave it to me. I didn't just pick this up. Like, this was bestowed upon me. And I stayed 52. And the only reason I ever changed 51 was because in middle school, I sprayed fart spray in the gym locker room, and I got in-school suspension the day that we had picture day, which was also the day you picked out your number, and somebody picked out 52, so I changed to 51, and then I carried 51 through. But anyways, yeah.
That was cool.
Yeah, I still remember. So back to the garage,
Yeah, no, we did, like I said, passed out equipment there, stored it, and refurbished, sent it off. And like I said, until 2010, when her mom and dad passed away in 2 months, my dad passed away the following June, had the tornado, the whole 9 and all that stuff. Well, so-called tornado.
Straight windstorm.
Yeah, right. My ass. But anyway, we did that and then finished up, I think my last year was, I don't know when it was, but by that time the league was ran, when we first started, it was ran by Trimble. They ran the league. All the games had to be played at Trimble. Everything had to be done at Trimble, the weigh-ins, all the stuff.
Yeah.
Well, we came in and tried to break it up to give the other teams an opportunity to raise some money for their program. you host a playoff game or you host a. So
makes sense.
me, that spearheaded that, and then got the other coaches behind us to, hey, relinquish some of that to these other teams so we can raise money for our program.
Yeah.
And so we finally got that, and now that's why we have, weigh-ins, preview game at this place, and then weigh-ins.
I did never realize that. Yeah,
so that was to, the wealth needs to be distributed.
Yeah.
And anyway, and so there again, and then after I quit coaching, got out of coaching, I ran the league as a commissioner until COVID.
Wow.
And so until COVID was started, until COVID happened, we had our league meetings every year. All the coaches came to my garage, and we had talked about, rule changes, blah, 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 everything. And any problems, they called me.
Yeah, well, that's true. Like, how are you guys, like, paying for refs and stuff like that? I mean, just, like, door sales, like, ticket sales, and just, like, barely hoping you break even?
Well, and that's why we said we wanted to spread the wealth with these playoff games and such, to allow, hey, you can pay for these refs. Or most of the time, you go to you go to a school and they're wearing the school colors and they're throwing the flags. Okay.
Yeah.
Bring your own plate and spoon because you're getting home cooking right there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
So now in the league, what we tried to do was to make we set out you had to have at least one licensed official on the field.
Okay.
That was the rule we put in, and everybody voted on it. So it wasn't just democracy. It wasn't a dictatorship by one program. We voted on it as a group, and it was democracy, and we brought it in. So everybody agreed to this. So then you got to the point where, the game we went to Miller, and Adam Irmer got blindsided on that blindside block and took him out. I don't know if you remember that.
No, I don't.
And, that was that's a legal hit. In high school, it's not. But we made it a legal hit in youth football. And then now in high school, it is a legal hit now. You can't do that no more.
Yeah.
So, like, Freddie used to have Freddie Stalter could do the same damn thing. And so anyway, and that was an illegal hit, and they argued it, and the official, and I said, buddy, I got the rules. And I showed it to him right there, and we're at Miller. And he's going, that's an illegal hit. And they suspended him for a game. And so anyway.
I remember that big number 5 kid. He had like a rat tail. I think maybe I do. I think it's coming back to me.
Yeah. And so, but youth football is, I enjoyed it. I'm glad it's off the ground. I'm glad it's running. And we are now feeding the high school with kids that's never seen a helmet until 7th grade. Now they understand the concept of the game. Yeah. And by the time they get to 7th grade, and as you can protest, you've seen the fruits of that and played in the Ohio Stadium, in the state title game, and so I got plenty of pictures of you from my daughter Tricia doing all the pictures.
I got a couple from her as well.
Yeah, and so it didn't end, and Joe will still say it's the worst game of his life, but but still to get there and score that many points and lose is amazing. Yeah. I mean, I'm just so proud of you guys and what you've done, and like I said, when you started playing for me, that group of kids, and that's what I tell everybody. They always want to know about Joe and what you coach Joe. I said, no, I coach an exceptional group of kids that came through with Joe.
Yeah.
When you think you have 12 or 13 kids that started in 3rd grade and played till their senior year, only good things can happen.
Yeah.
When you get a group that big that stick together, when you put helmets on them, you don't have to put a play out there. They know what each of them are going to do before they do it.
Yeah, it's numbers. You get preached that as a player, right? The whole time your coaches are always saying, but you just don't even get it. You don't even really fully get it then. But I mean, it is. It's that. It's the you in 7th grade you got 18 kids, and then in 8th grade you got 14, and then freshman year you got 12, and then junior year, so it's just like you lose them here, and then now you got 4 seniors, and it's just like, damn, what if we had all 12 of those back? I do think that was something very special with us, is how many we had all the way through. I mean, I was trying to play in 2nd grade. My mom was like, no, it's just, I don't know what it was, man.
Yeah, it was what helped with that is, and I'm taking blame for it. Our youth program, Alan's group that came through, that first group, the 5th and 6th graders, and Alan's 3rd and 4th grade, when they came through, that was when Les Champlin started coaching, and we were 8-2.
So kind of the opposite effect. You start winning, and that's only going to feed back little kids. And
little kids are going out there on Friday night. What are you doing? Playing in the end zone?
Yep.
Hey, we're winning. Let's go to the game. Everybody jumps on the bandwagon when you're winning, and so it just boom, it just dominoes.
That's cool.
And so when, like I said, the biggest group I ever had was your group. I had 48 kids one year.
That's crazy. Yeah.
And I'm like, and so we had a green team, a gold team. We had a green team and gold team on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, I remember that in the fifth quarters, like getting the kids in.
So, we started that too. I said, hey, we need to play fifth quarter. And, hey, I don't care if you're green or gold, you show up for all fifth quarter games.
Yeah.
You support your guys, your team. And but yeah, it's all direct to reflect, of what happened, when we're winning and on Friday nights, your youth program is growing.
Hell yeah. Well, it's also too, man. I also remember being in third, fourth, fifth, sixth grade, and they did this thing where if you were running back, the varsity running back would come on a Thursday and take you to team dinner, or if you were the center would come take you to team dinner. And dude, they were like college kids. They were like full grown adults with like beards and fucking leg hair. Just like I just remember how special it felt to be like. Just like privileged to be like around these fucking knights of warriors, and I mean, yeah, dude, like I got bought fully in youth,
and that's a reflection of the great coaching in the varsity level.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing. When I started coaching youth football in '95, Alan, I mean, we were in the championship game 2 years.
SCOAL?
No.
Oh, you're talking about
youth.
Pee Wee.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we got beat by Alexander. Nobody scored on our defense the entire year. The entire season. We got beat 6-0 in the championship game. No lie. Because our offense fumbled the ball, they picked it up, ran it in, we stopped a 2-point conversion.
Good Lord.
And lost 6-0.
Well, defense wins championships. You may score, but if you never if you score, you may win, but if you never let them score, you will never lose. Defense wins championships. Oh, man. Come on, Sam.
You said
Dude,
it.
It's there,
That's
man.
it.
I drop it on my kids every once in a while.
Oh, yeah. It is. I mean, if you score, you may win. If you never let them score, you'll never lose. And defense does win championships. So I'm a firm believer in it. And that's the year, Alan, like I said, nobody scored on us. And we lost. And I said, but back then, we moving forward, I guess. I don't know where we was going with down this road, but we had it was a good time. It was building the program is always all after. That's all I'm ever after. Is sitting there on my porch on Friday nights, seeing a turnout of fans for one, and seeing more than 20 kids. Because when Alan was a freshman, they called him the Dirty 30. We had 30 kids. They had 4 freshmen, and
30 kids in the whole football program.
And Alan just had hip surgery, so he wasn't allowed to play. So they called him the Dirty 30. They had shirts made up, and behind the line in '09, when we started, when Trish's group came through, and that group of kids, and then like I said, when Alan, from the time he started until you came along, I went through 7 coaches, varsity coaches, and it's just amazing. We have 1-year wonders. Had a guy from the Air Force, and he coached 1 year. We had Meade coached here 1 year, went to Nelsonville. I
didn't even know the lineage, honestly, of like before Ryan.
Yeah, it was turn them over. Les Champlin was here for 4 or 5 years. For his second stint.
I was about to say, the way that people talk about him, it seemed like he was here for a lifetime.
He was. I mean, he went to school here.
I see. Okay, that makes sense.
When Les Champlin was in high school, he was the fastest kid in school. And he coached, I think it was in the 80s.
Okay.
A little bit. And then he was the offensive coordinator for another coach that we had. And then he became the head coach again.
I see.
So, yeah, he'd been here forever.
Yeah, okay.
So, and like we went through, and every time we get a new varsity coach, I'd go sit down with him, with a few of my coaches, youth coaches, blah, 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 hello, how you doing, shake hands. What are you running? we run the pro, we run this, we run, and when you guys came through, we had Coach Miller who ran the wing tee offense, and I was like, okay, so I just want to get the terminology down to these kids, so when they get to you, they understand that part of it, and you can teach, go from there. At least they understand the terminology and things, and that's why we run the wing tee when you came through, and is because that's what our high school was running, and so but the defense has always been mine. I always stuck with a 5-3. I always stuck with a 50 base. We'd drop down to a gap 8. We'd drop, you know what I mean? We'd run C charge, C charge right, C charge left, cross, gap wide. The same defense had been ran since, and that was taught to me by my football coach in youth football, Pat Bullock.
Nice.
And he ran that, and because that's what Nelsonville ran. And when I was in school, I played before we moved my 7th grade year, but up to my 7th grade year, I played with the guys that went and won the state title. And my quarterback was Pete Taggart, and played with, Jonathan Shintz and Natu Patel, these guys, and this, that, and the other. And I moved. If I'd have stayed, I'd have been on that team. But that's the defense they ran.
Yeah.
So I kept the same defense. I was like, if it works, don't fix it. And so that's why we ran the defense that we ran. And everybody said, oh, you got to get in a 4-4. I said, no. And that stuff that you guys ran, the 5-2, 4, 4-2, whatever, how you call that shit.
Goody's trying to push a 3-5, and I'm like, dude, I don't have bodies for that.
Oh, yeah. So anyway, well, let's get into that here a minute. Wait a minute. Are you coaching varsity?
No. They asked. And,
I know. We've had this conversation.
Yeah, no. I'm not. I'm going to stay in middle school for now. The first thing the coach said back to me was, great, we'll talk next spring. And I said, perfect, I'll talk to you next spring. I think I'm a little bit afraid of the commitment. I'm afraid of over-promising to everybody and under-delivering, but I think that it's in my future. I think it organically, I just think I'm going to end there for sure.
Oh, you're fit.
It's an incredible spot in middle school because I didn't really know what to expect. I didn't, you are to some degree. There are the kids that maybe their parents didn't let them play, and so they're trying to figure out, when we have the ball, we're on offense, when we don't run defense. But then there are also other kids that come back and they're just killers and they get it and they know what they're doing and they're not there. They're there to have fun when it's time to have fun, but they're there to work when it's there. And so you get enough of it that I enjoy that. But I got to do I got a little taste of it. I did a lineman challenge. Big Rogers had something to do and I ran it and I was jacked up. I woke up an hour before my alarm that day, just let's go. It's just kind of being self-aware, the energy I get from it, man. It's
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed every year.
Why didn't you ever give up? Just because you understood how pivotal it was to hold that youth program down?
Why did I what?
Why did you never kind of follow your kids up or ever go coach varsity? Did you have
I had many opportunities. I coached junior high for 4 or 5 years.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, and I coached them up, and then I quit doing that, but I still went Friday nights to scout for the football. But see, we changed coaches, so every time we change a coach, I'm not going to sit in that and be flip flopped. There's stories there can be told, but I'm not going to speak of them. Guys has been at our school for years, and the coaching chain changes. Well, they get tossed around and they get upset and they get I don't want to see that play out in front of kids.
Yeah, kind of to that point, you were talking about how our grades stuck together. I feel like our coaching staff was also kind of Ron Lucas. I had him on the podcast. He kind of pointed this out that was also unfamiliar. That group of coaches also kind of stuck around the Big Rogers, the Max, the Goodwins, the Adams, and Coach Wyatt. I guess was kind of newer to when we had first gotten there. But even he obviously now the continuity there. But I feel like a lot of our coaches also, which is it sounds like also not very common for.
Yeah, it does. It's amazing that you can, especially at Athens, to see the changes that I've seen, coming through as a youth football coach and the changes at our varsity level. It got old. It got real old, but when they came through, there's a story in there when they opened Applebee's up. Stanley and I are down there waiting. It's crowded, brand new, it's open. Coach Adams and his wife are sitting there at the bar waiting on a table, and I walk over and I said, "Hey, when you gonna come coach varsity? We need a good coach." He went, "Well, I don't know." And she looked at me like, and I know he had little kids, don't get me wrong. And I said, "Well, I'm telling you this right now. I got a great group of kids coming through that need a excellent coach that knows the lay of the land." And I said, "You're the man for the job." And sure enough, 2007 or 8, 9, somewhere in there, he took over, and and then it's like you guys came through. It was like, holy smokes. And, your freshman year was like, hey, you're trying to find people to play. And you're Waverly, you're playing all these big powerhouse schools freshman year. And our freshman schedule was we never even had a freshman team for years until you guys came through.
Yeah, dissolved again, too. There's not one anymore again.
Right. Yeah. So, and that's a shame. But, go ahead. I enjoyed it. You enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, like even just with because like you had kids, right? And you had kids before you started coaching. So like with the fucking scouting thing, when you're like taking off every Friday, it's just like, was your wife okay with like how do you? Yeah. I mean, well, I guess doing youth, you're obviously going to get more time back than coaching like varsity. But I mean, it still seems like you're pretty involved. How'd you make time for work and coaching and family? Like, I mean, what sacrifices did you have to make along the way to uphold all of this commitment to the youth football program?
For scouting wise, we just took family.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
Hey, let's go to Parkersburg South. She said, well,
cool.
I said, we'll go there, we'll get dinner, go to a football game, scout down a few things till halftime and go, I've seen enough. Let's go
okay.
home. Make a family thing of it.
That makes sense, yeah.
When the kids grew up and through youth, and I was still there, Tricia was in competitive cheer. Mm-hmm. Tricia, Stanley was, I'd take him to some junior golf outings.
Yeah, he's good to go, yeah.
And so, we try to make time for that. But I missed a lot of her cheerleading stuff, which, from what I understand, is, a bunch of yelling, bunch of screaming. And, I'm like, okay.
Glad you had fun, sweetie.
Yeah, I know. Go get them, girl. Yeah. And but I did miss a lot of those things. Yeah. And but other than that, we made time to fish. We made time to hunt.
It's beautiful. Yeah.
With Tricia killed a deer. She's killed deer. All my kids have killed. We've caught trout. We've fished.
Stan's quite the angler as well.
Stan is pretty good fisherman. Yeah. And so all my kids are. They understand the concept of all that. But we made time for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have to. You got to make time for your family. And it's. I enjoyed it. I really did. And Terry said something about well, we got grandson Jace. Alan's oldest boy is 8, and we have 3 other grandchildren, sons, and just had our first granddaughter.
Oh, well.
So Alan and Sally had a granddaughter, Sadie, and but Tricia's got 2 boys. Mm-hmm. Alan's got 2 boys, and it's going to be a fun one.
Yeah. I just realized too, didn't Tricia do like some youth cheerleading coaching like back when I was playing? And then Alan and Stan both coach tracks. It's like even all your children have like become coaches and helped like kind of pass on, just like teaching and giving back and mentorship. That's beautiful.
Stanley and Alan was coaching you.
Yeah, in track. Yeah.
In youth football too.
Oh shit! Really? Wow.
Alan was the defensive coordinator when you were there,
That's
and I said. So anyway, but they all 3 of them. I'm proud of all of them.
Awesome.
Our kids, they do carry on, and even in baseball this past spring, somebody came up and said, I think it was Sheila Ross. She said, "I just love it." She said, "He's a great coach, and he gets it straight from you." And I said, "Well, he's a great coach on his own, not because of me. It's because of what he does." And I said, "He's good with the kids," and I said, "I'm proud of him." And so. And all of them,
apple doesn't fall far from the tree, yeah?
Yeah. Thank God. Yeah. They didn't roll away. Of course, that was Mom's idea. You all can do whatever you want to do, just so you stay close to us.
Yeah. And they all have,
Yeah. And Alan lives at the end of the street. I live in front of the football field.
Yep.
He lives in front of the baseball field.
That's it.
On the same street.
Yep.
And Tricia lives in Chansey.
Yep.
And Stanley bought my wife's childhood home.
Oh, really?
And so he lives there, and then his girlfriend, wife, put a ring on it, boy. Anyway, she bought a house in Chansey.
Nice.
So they kind of they live at both places.
Nice.
And but yeah, they all stayed close, and we're close knit family.
Yeah. No, and I think that's like a microcosm of Athens. I think that's why Athens is great. These families that stick together and fucking like.
And that's what Athens is all about. Is I know we're a college town, a D1 college town, and you get transient coaches and their kids come through, and some stay and some don't.
Mm-hmm.
But most generally, when they come through here, they find something in this little county, and they love it.
Yeah.
And I've said it too. Like I said, I've drove up and down the East Coast 9 times, and I've always come back to these hills right here,
Yeah.
and this is where it's at. And don't know what it is, but this is where it's at.
Yeah.
Let me turn this off.
No worries.
Anyway, yeah, but yeah, Athens County is you can call it a microcosm of the whole state, of the whole country in this county.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter where you go in this county, you can find, Appalachia, the poorest of poor, and you can find the richest of rich, and you can find the people that, help everybody, and you can find the secluded people who just want to live out in the woods and be their own.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing what you can find here if you look.
Yeah.
So, and that's what makes us, I think, the foothills of the Allegheny Mountains, we are here.
Mm-hmm.
This is us.
Yeah.
And you can find it all right here.
What do you think's changed since you got here in '86? Has it just grown, gotten bigger, more people?
The growth.
Yeah.
When we bought the property we're on in the Plains, it was a dead-end street.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so you come past the football field, there was a doctor's office and 2 trailers, and it was dead end. So we loved it. And then, of course, Big Bear, you had the grocery store, and you had your own little, this, that, and the other. And it it grew, and the subdivisions, around, the Plains Elementary School was
Mm-hmm.
built, and that's where, as Alan's first year in school was the first year that school opened.
Oh, really?
So that was put in, and then all the houses around it, and of course then all the growth that comes from that.
Yeah.
And then of course here in Athens, with everything going on with the university,
God, it's just growing.
and
It's just
everything they do is there's another building going in.
stretching down 682. Like
Yeah.
that's starting to scare me. It's just
Yeah.
like going towards the plains, like
Yep.
that. Like my family's in between Athens
Yep.
and the plains, and
Yep.
like just that. I mean, those couple Kershaw Green and Tyler Park, like those apartment buildings. I mean, the University of States wasn't there when I first moved here. Like, it's just, I remember that when there was a pond with fish in there. I caught catfish out of that pond, and now there's just like these. It scares me. It scares
Yeah,
me.
you could walk up. I don't know if you still can, up behind your house to Bargain Billy's. Have you ever done that?
No, I've not. But you're talking about like all the way back towards like
Yeah.
Armitage. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
All the way back to where Billy's daughter lives. Back when now there's all the University of States go up in there.
Yeah.
That water tower that's up there. We've walked from, it used to be Hope's farm, and we walked out that field and walked clear over turkey hunting, clear to Bargain Billy's,
That's crazy.
and come out, I'm like, and now you can't do that no more. It was all woods, it was all beautiful. It was up and down these deep hollows, but yeah, that's not there no more.
Yeah.
And like you said, used to catch fish out of that pond, and
I even remember when it got drained, it was a big deal.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Now it's just like, but I mean, even too like that building, because it was like that old man's house across the street. Now that's an Airbnb. But I think I like kind of what Little Fish has done with it. Turned it into an Airbnb, and they like host events out of it.
Oh yeah,
like
seen that.
right there.
Weddings and such.
Yeah, that's actually kind of a cool
that's
idea.
pretty neat.
Yeah.
But no, it's the town. I mean, the city's progress. You know how it works.
Yeah.
And you can't stay small forever. If you're small, they'll find you and make you big.
Yeah. When is Chancey going to get the rub off of like Athens expansion and stuff? Because like it just seems so overdrawn that those types of places haven't it's like how can a student not find housing out there? It's just like they're not in the commuter thing yet. Like it's just like how can the good expansive like economic growth of Athens? How could we get that into a Millfield, into a Chancey, into a Bookdale? Like how do you expand that?
I don't know if you do.
Oh.
I think it's part of like I said, there's part of this county that wants to remain
Untouched.
secluded.
Yeah. I never thought of it that way.
There's part of this county that doesn't want that, the big growth.
Yeah.
But Bailey's Trailhead, that's brought a lot of things out there to Chancey.
Sure.
And there's a lot of those little Airbnbs popping up around there. And, of course, the bicycle shops, are benefiting from all that. And I think in due time, and they get Chansey infrastructure done, and they get all that going the right way. I know former mayors that have been there did a lot of tearing down of the old places, the eyesores, to try to bring the community back and build some open opportunity for people to build on those spots. And I think it's, like I said, it's either going to work that way, or like some people just want to remain just who they are.
Maybe there's not a problem with that.
No, there isn't. Yeah. No, there can't be. I mean, if you're enjoying life, Murphy's Law Part 2, if it works, don't fix it. I mean, that's just, just how it is. And, so I don't know. My brother-in-law lives out on Dutch Ridge, Hogue Hollow Road out that way. And he's got acreage, and we deer hunt that. And his neighbor has 300 some acres, and we deer hunt all that. And we walk it, do everything. Don't touch it. Yeah. Leave it alone. That's God's country, Yeah. And there ain't much of that left, And we have Wayne National Forest, but but still, the private sector, they want to remain that way, So, I mean, there's room for growth if you want to grow.
Yeah.
You just got to want to do it.
Yeah, I never thought of it that like maybe it's okay that it stays kind of the way it is. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's been fine for hundreds of years.
Heard that. That's why there's a U in the name, right? Because it was a moonshine town.
That's right.
See, if you mispronounced it, you weren't from around here.
What's that?
The name Chansey. If you pronounced it Chauncey, isn't that the folks' tale, like the wise tale you hear? Why is there a U in the name Chansey?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Chansey was founded in 1838, and it was a salt mine town.
Salt mine town. Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, before it was coal mine, it was salt. Salt was big around here. Wow. Pomeroy was a big salt, So it was. So,
I knew about the coal mining. I didn't know about the salt mine.
Yeah. Right. So and then salt in 1838, it was founded, and so that's been a while back.
Yeah,
and,
damn, I didn't realize it was that old.
And but it was a metropolis when then the coal mining hit. Right after that, and it just boomed. And
was Buckingham? What was the other mine? The Millfield mine? Buckingham was more towards Gloucester.
Yeah,
right?
that was up toward Gloucester. I don't even remember the names of all the coal mines that were around. There was Temples down on 550 down Sugar Creek, Augustine, whatever you want to call those, down that way. Then they went clear up over the hills to the old mine disaster in Millfield. I don't remember the name of that one, but there were mines everywhere.
Yeah, wow.
I mean, you can just dot them all the way down from Chansey, the whole southeast Ohio, right? And Athens, and it was amazing, But that was the community. That was the, what we did. That's what got us to grow to the point we are, is because of that. And then when those mines went out, and a lot of the industry went with it, Chansey and Gloucester, those towns just kind of fizzled back down to a small community. And it'd be great to bring some of that back, but what are you going to bring in? Do you want a chemical plant? Do you want a big, whatever built right down the road here? And
no is the answer.
And I know Ohio University doesn't, because they take away from their students, and they don't want that. And then tax breaks, they ain't gonna get tax breaks no more. So why would they build a huge plant down here? There's nothing here. Nobody relies on the railroad or the waterways like they did back in the day to get their stuff from A to B. So places like this kind of get passed by that way. But there again, you're gonna have to have a big company come in to build something.
Yeah. Well, I was wondering, what's gonna replace some of these big box stores, even like the Joann's that just closed down, Big Lots that just closed down, Athena Grand. It's like those are pretty large real estates, spaces that I don't feel like a mom and pop are gonna be able. Maybe like a Peddler's Junction type deal, but even that doesn't seem like it's like. I don't know. Taken out, you could say half people don't even know what Peddler's Junction is.
Yeah, it's a consignment store.
Yeah,
you take your stuff in, and I don't know what's going to go in. I really don't. It's amazing. Like Sears and J.C. Penney's, back when we were growing up.
Elder Beerman.
Yeah. The downtown stretch. I remember when I was a kid, and Court Street. You went to Marting, right there on the corner at 5 from Court. That was Marting's building. Marting's.
What did they do?
The department store, like Macy's. I mean, it was right there.
Yeah.
You know, when I went, we had to go buy Boy Scout uniforms or whatever I needed. That's where you bought it at. You wanted to buy clothes. That's where you went. You know, I mean, and then all the stores all the way, Hallmark, just a Hallmark store. You know, I used to buy my wife cards and flowers from the Hallmark store right there on Court Street. No, there ain't nothing there no more.
Yeah,
you know,
except for bars. Yeah.
Exactly. You know, and need more of those and pizza shops.
Yeah, it's weird because like when you go to like other small, like what's this one, like a Bell Fountain or even like a Nelsonville, you know what I mean? You see like an actual like a shoe repairman or like a shoemaker, you know, or you see a tailor. So like there's some of these small towns that I go to and I'm like, how the fuck does that? How can we not figure this out? How is there not a shoemaker here? How is there not a tailor here? It's like maybe they are. They're just not on the main drag. They don't have a storefront or something. It's just like, you know, my family, well, my grandma just knows how to fix everything. But it's like, I feel like everybody knows some old lady seamstress you just like take your stuff to. But some of that stuff, I was like, it makes sense that we're big enough. Like, how could a small community not like be able to support that, but a big one can't? But then it's just like, because the real estate is too expensive. It's like, I don't know, you know?
I don't know. We had Moore's shoe repair in the Plains until he passed away. Right there beside the
Piggly Wiggly.
It's right where the auto place is. Deputies.
Oh yeah, okay.
It was right there, and then they bought it, tore it down, and made a parking lot out of it. That's where you got your shoes repaired. Yeah, I took my boots there many times to get them resold, and but yeah, I don't know. You're right. Where do you go for the seam? You know, where do you get your dress hemmed? Or, you know, where do you get your suit tailored, you know, taken in or let out, and I'm sure there's people like you said. I know there's people in Albany that still do it
for sure.
And but why don't we have storefronts like that? Yeah. You know, we have empty spaces. You know, but then again, now you got to talk overhead, you got to talk rent.
So I'm saying it's expensive as fuck.
It's ridiculous, and why would you? You know, you can't. Nobody can afford that, and for the size that we are and the calling that it takes, you know, you're gonna have to be a demand and a supply and demand. You know, the whole thing. You know, if there's no demand for it, what are you going to do? You're going to
maybe that's half the problem, right? Is that we don't even value it. Yeah.
Right. You know, it's like people. You know, I'm not going to eat chicken no more. So Miller's Chicken's going out. You know, I mean, nobody wants their shoes fixed, and they're going to look at it and go, "Shit, I could buy a new pair of slip-ons for $20." You know, why fix these?
Yeah. We made nicer shit 100 years ago than we did now.
You're damn right. And you know, I've had the same pair of hunting boots for 25 years. So, you know.
That's a good cultural thing, you know?
Yeah. Oh. What's that?
Like culture, my generation, just like we don't care. Like, well, it's most, I don't want to say everybody, but it's like, more common than not that you just, instead of taking care of nice things, you just, dude, I got these Hades for $30. What's up? I'll go get another pair, right?
Well, I call it the old, it's like a Bic lighter. When it runs out of gas, you throw it away, buy a new one. That's what the generation is. You know?
Versus a nice metal contraption.
Exactly.
You understand the components that you can replace. You get a new flint stick, get a new cod, and for sure.
Yeah, and Stanley still carries a Zippo lighter.
Nice.
Because of me. Cool. Because I have a collection of Zippos. Oh, that's cool. But it's just that type of situation with everything. You know, I buy a new belt buckle, save the belt. You know, I fix my shoes, my boots. Like I said, I've had them for 25 years. Yeah. So
I'm only 27 years old, Sam.
My boots are about as old as you are, bud. So, and I've killed many a deer in those boots.
Oh, yeah.
And
have you always deer hunt?
Always.
You growing up and stuff?
Yeah.
Cool. You always process them? Or not process them, but you get them processed?
We do it ourselves.
You do process? You got a grinder? Nice.
Oh, yeah, we got all that.
Nice.
And
what type of animal fat do you use?
What's that?
Do you mix animal fat in any of your ground meat? Do you like a pork or beef fat? Pork fat?
We butcher our own hog.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
We do that, and we
Where'd you fucking learn how to butcher a fucking hog?
I grew up on a farm. I was a kid.
That checks out. All right.
I watched it all my life.
That's awesome.
You know, and you finally, hey, skin this out, and you put a hole in the hide and we'll bust your ass. Yes, Grandpa. You know, and so you do cows, you do hogs, you do deer, whatever, you know. We do it all, and I still grow my own garden. I still can about 100 jars a year of my own food, and we take care of that, and we make our own jerky, my own sausage.
Hell yeah!
Everything, you know, it's like you do it yourself.
Yeah.
I've taught my kids the same thing. You know, not that they're into canning and doing a lot of crap, but they like the reward at the end when they come and get a jar of salsa or a jar of spaghetti sauce or whatever. They, I like that. Hey, do you have any tomatoes? I said, yeah, I got canned tomatoes, whole tomatoes. All right. Well, when it's canning season, get your ass up here and help me. And so, I mean, they understand it. It's just, there again, it's a big lighter.
Yeah.
I'll just go buy new.
I get a can of tomatoes 50 cents at the store, Pa.
Yeah,
another great story. I think it was like the Super Bowl, right? It was like a game we were playing Sheridan Foxes, Sheridan something.
Oh yeah, Generals. Yeah.
Sheridan Generals, and you'd always talk about a can of whoop ass. I peeled the label off of like a fucking can of chicken and noodle soup and wrote whoop ass on it. Like I remember because we were in the tunnel, right? You're up in the corner tunnel. We like come running out onto the field. I like rip open the can of whoop ass, dude. I don't know why that came back to me.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That was and see there again, that's my, going back to coaching you guys and coaching all my kids. That game, if you remember correctly, leading into that game, I said, you guys figure out what you want to do. I said, you are league champions. Nobody's taking that away from you in the Super Bowl. How do you want to do it? And Joe and these guys started saying, let's throw the ball around the yard. I said, all right. So we worked on it. First half, we got our ass kicked. Couldn't get the ball moving. Couldn't do anything. I think we were down 6-0 or 12-0, whatever it was. And you guys all come into halftime with your heads down. I'm going, God damn it, boys. Quit looking at your dicks and get your head up here. And, we're going to have fun. Now, we tried it your way for a half. Let's play what we did to get us here. And the second half, we went out there and shut them out and got beat 12-6. And I'm like, hey, we made it,
It's progress, man. It's progress and a half, yeah.
So, but I always let any team I coached at the end of the year, hey, how do you want to finish this in practice? I'm leaving it up to you guys.
That's cool to give them agency as little human beings, for them to take that responsibility. Yeah, that's awesome idea.
Teach them to think, hey, now we got to think. Now we got to do this. And take all that I've taught you and figure out what you want to do with it. And I enjoyed watching it. Just, all right. Then when you get down yourself, or if it does well, hey, rub it in coach's face. That's great. I love it. And but, don't get down. Look up. And let's go back to what we did. And let's play it, see how that works. And so, win, lose, or draw, it's all about kids. It's all about, getting them involved. And like I've told people, how many games did Joe lose? I said, Joe didn't lose any games. I said, I myself have lost many games, but my kids have never lost a one. So, and they don't, of course, if I didn't win a game, if we didn't win, it was all reflection on the coach for not making you better prepared. I still think, all the way up to, high school, maybe even college, you can use that same persona that, okay, they got beat. Now, sometimes you're just going to run into a buzzsaw, and those guys are just 10 times better than you. Yeah. And that's fine. We're going to go out there and we're going to know ahead of time and have fun. That's when you have fun, you come away healthy. You don't get hurt. So, those games are going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, that is interesting. It was a little difficult. It was like I had a gap in expectation with reality because we won so much. Like I just thought everything I ever did I was gonna fucking murder. Like, and that's a good. Like I had a lot of confidence, and it could be misconstrued as arrogance, and sometimes it probably was a little bit of arrogance and ego, but I think even now, like I have an unwavering confidence of just like there wasn't one time I stepped on a field and was like, I'm about to get my ass beat. Like I literally never once in 10 years ever had a mindset. I never even like let in like, oh, we might. Marion Franklin, we got destroyed, 42-7, one of my worst losses ever. And the 7 points was like a bullshit last minute, like. 681 points to score 7. You know what I mean? It's just like that was and I don't know. I just always had this like unwavering confidence. Like fuck you. Like it's not. I'm gonna will my way there.
And there's teams out there that were Marion Franklin that year. We knew going in. I don't know if you guys knew as a team how good they really were, and I'm sure you did. Yeah. But it's like the year that same year that Trimble went to the state title and played Marina Stein Marion Local, and I didn't know anything about them. And I said, "God damn!" And Trimble had probably one of the best defenses I've seen in school history, period, bar none. And they were good.
Yeah, I remember Trimble's defense. Yeah.
And they ran the old wishbone, and they could kill a clock and have a game be done by 10 till 9. And game's over. Oh yeah. And I said, well, they're going up there to play, state title. Matt looked at me, crazy. He said, who's the voice of the Bulldogs?
Yes.
And he said, they don't stand a chance. And I said, what? He said, they don't stand a fucking snowball chance in hell to even come out of there with a score. I said, they're good. Their defenses gave up, 8 shutouts. I'm like, and not just the, slowly, TVC hawking teams. Mm-hmm. I'm talking shutouts in the playoffs. And he's going, they don't stand a snowball chance in hell. Maria Steinmeier Local 2 years in a row won the state title and never gave up a score. They beat Trimble that year, and the very next year came back and beat Norwalk St. Paul or somebody like that, and never gave up a score.
In 4 seasons. Good Lord.
I'm telling you what, that's how good they were.
Yeah.
So going into that game, just like you going into
because that was the year before, right? Yeah. That was the year before we went.
Yeah. And
because I remember the next year, our pamphlet had Trimble in it, and I was like, this is fucking sick.
Yep. And so going into the Marion game, the regional final, I'm like, this is going to be, and I hope they just don't get hurt.
I knew it was a good team, but even then, that's kind of where it's just, even then, Thurgood Marshall, I didn't play sophomore year.
Nope.
But I knew the energy in that locker room going to play third. It's very similar to, it was probably worse. That was probably the worst energy ever going into a game. It was just kind of like, maybe they'd already given up. That's bad. I don't know.
Well,
yeah,
they were, that team
the
was
win
good.
Came quick. That's what I'll say about that Thurgood Marshall game.
And then, going back to what you were saying, I was taught growing up by my grandfather, my brothers, you can be arrogant as long as you're good, as long as you can prove it. And that's not arrogance. That's just being good.
Yeah.
So, but don't try to be arrogant and go out there and half-ass something. Because now you're just being arrogant. Now you're just pissing off other people.
Yeah.
So if you're arrogant, you better be good at what you're saying. And so there's a difference. Mm-hmm. There's a huge difference.
So the level of confidence that you are certain what you say is going to happen is going to happen.
That's right.
Like, so then somebody that has a high degree of certainty is being confident, not arrogant. Somebody that's like, again, I'm going to make this outcome happen, but you have zero agency to actually make it happen. That's arrogance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so that's what you teach as a coach. You try to teach, confidence, and what I'd always say, it's good to be happy, never be satisfied. So, are you satisfied? That means you're done. If you're satisfied, that means you're not going to try any harder. But it's good to be happy. So I've taught that and taught that and coached that and coached that. As long as you're happy, there's always more to do. Mm-hmm. But once you're satisfied, you're done. That means you're, all right, I'm peaked out, I'm done, I can't learn anymore. So just things that I coached into, my kids and to help, grow their confidence. Yeah. So I'm sorry if you feel overconfident about, not losing a game in 10 years.
It's fucking taken me a lot farther than it's hurt me. That's for damn sure.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
What do you do about the kids you can't help? Because that's something I didn't ever realize. Like Coach White kind of gave me that realization my very first year coaching, and was just like I had this scenario, and it's like, well, what do I do? And then the answer ended up being like, yeah, you can't help every kid. Like, do you ever have those scenarios where, youth is maybe a little too young for that, but like, yeah, that just seems to be the most difficult part of coaching for me, is like when there's just kind of like, you've done what you can, but you can't make sure their grades are good enough for them to play. You can't, Have you ever been put in those situations?
At the youth level, probably not. The more I find with that aspect of it is a kid that you have 48 kids on your team. Not everybody's going to play.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You got 11 kids on the field. If you have a complete offense, complete defense, you got 22. But you know as well as I do, some of those have to play both ways.
Yeah.
Not all. Now, we did play. I don't think you played a lot of defense.
No, I kind of didn't want. Yeah. Oh, I never did ever. Right. I was never really into defense. Let me know what I'm going to do. I like knowing what I'm going to do before the play starts.
But and when you have a teams like back when I coached Stanley's team, we had 12 kids, 14 kids. Now you got to play Ironman football.
Yep.
Well, what that does is, I call them burger eaters. I don't care what you want to call them, and the kids just don't care. And he said, I don't give a shit, You can put corduroy pants on him and a tank top, and he's like, I look great. I like those kids.
Yeah.
And so, but when you get kids the opposite way that, that want to play, but their skill level is maybe not up, and you're afraid they're going to get hurt. And their parents have rose-colored glasses on. They only see the good, the good, the good, the good. That's fine, but you got to understand, if I put little Timmy or little Johnny in there and, he gets hurt, who you going to yell at first? You're going to come to the coach.
Yeah.
And so I got a lot of that, and not saying I couldn't help the kid, but I think I was helping the kid more by not pushing him into it and letting him be hungry for it for the next year when he grew up. Just trying to keep him excited.
Yeah.
You could take a kid like that and put him on the defensive end or offensive end, and we got so and so in there on the offensive right end. Run the ball to the left.
I know exactly what you mean.
So
split him out left. We're gonna run.
Well, and that and what it does, keeps him involved. He's not out on an island.
Mm-hmm.
Keeps him intact with the line, but you're not putting him in harm's way by having the whole team run that way.
Yeah, it's really smart. Yeah.
And you kind of play off what you're doing. And I don't know if you knew this or not, but you remember Alex Pimento and Freddie Troy Stoner?
Yeah.
Okay, when we ran the wing T in 3rd and 4th grade, okay, did you know my tendency with them two?
One way, one the other,
Exactly.
because they couldn't figure out the other.
Exactly.
That checks out.
Yeah. So every time Alex got the ball, he went to the right. Every time Troy got the ball, he went to the left. Because that's all they remembered, and it made it simple on them.
I remember Troy. Which one? Joe. Every time Troy, right there.
So I
man.
And it was, and I ran the plays in with them.
Yeah.
And nobody ever caught on it. Not even Heath Bullock.
Yeah. Dre Cook's dad. That's who that was.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember him. Or you
Stepdad.
stepdad. Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, he never caught on to that.
Yeah.
We're going to the championship game that year and against Nelsonville, and I said, "Did you?" He's going, "What?" And I said, "God damn, you do that, don't you?" I'm like, "You didn't catch on to that?" And I said, "Nobody caught on to that." So anyway, but that's the little things that I did. And the other thing I did when you guys played, I never blitzed in the first half. Never once. And Alan, when I think his 6th grade year, Joey's you guys' 6th grade year, I said, he said, "Come on, Dad." I said, "No." He said, "What is your problem?" I said, "Don't you watch? Don't you pick up?" I said, "You're my son. You're a future coach." I never blitz in the first half, ever. And then I come out in the second half and pour it on because
They didn't talk about it.
Right.
Yeah.
They didn't say, "Hey, we got to pick this blitz up. We got to pick this blitz up." And the linemen are all sitting back on their heels going, "No, we just got, we're fine." And then when all of a sudden you got dog blitzes coming from both gaps, it's like, whoa, what are we going to do? And you catch them off guard and 3 and out, and get the ball back, and boom, make something happen. I'm just saying.
Defense wins championship.
That's right. There you go. But those are tendencies that, people didn't catch up on what I did.
Yeah.
Just little things for youth kids, and it's, opens it up.
What's hilarious is like you, as I was growing up, like I grew up with Troy, so like you hear about there's another Stalder. Dude, Isaac, Ethan's boy, is a 7th grader this year, and he just like comes walking up to practice. I like quadruple taked, and I went, "Dude, you're a fucking Stalder. You're a Stalder, dude. I see it on you." And like it finally clicked. Like all these years I heard him go, "Oh, that's a Stalder for sure." But dude, literally, like
Now
you could just,
see it.
oh my God. Like I looked at him and went, that, and then sure enough, I went, "Your last name's Stalder." It's like, yeah. But I thought that was hilarious.
He's a tough one too.
Really? You know what he does is, what fires me up is when we start sprints, he starts in a wrestler stance, like he's about to. And I was just like, this kid. Oh my God! If I didn't know he was a Stalder before, no, I know.
You know now.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, what are you thinking? You good?
Yeah, for sure, dude. I appreciate your time. This is beautiful. Sam Smathers, yeah.
Oh, thank you, Tyler.
For sure.
Catfish.
One more thing. You should talk about your book real quick. Just tell people where to go find it. Tell them real quick what it is.
I was approached by Scott Burson, who graduated in 1980 from Athens.
Cool.
He was a basketball player, and a pretty good player, basketball player at Athens High School. And he approached me about doing a book for Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow's first coach.
Yeah.
It's going to be a short story, I can tell you that right now. And he said, well, you coached him for 4 years. I said, yeah. And I said, well, let's open this up. And so it's called Bulldog to Bengal, the Joe Burrow story told through the eyes of his hometown. I think we interviewed over 60 people, former youth coaches, excuse me. And then, he put it all together and, Joe's first 25 years, and it has from, youth, when they moved here, her mom saying, I don't want to move there. They have tackle football. Okay, I'm moving. And that's what sold the deal for Joe to come here, that we have tackle football for third grade. And so he moved here and started playing baseball, and it goes clear up to the Super Bowl that they lost, should have won. And so it's a pretty in-depth book. I mean, if you're a Bengals fan, LSU Bengals fan, Cincinnati Bengals fan, Athens Bulldogs fan, or Joe Burrow fan, it's a great book. It's a good read. I tried to make it come off. I want junior high kids to read this book.
Yeah.
Because inspirationally, it's what you can do if you put your mind to it. What Joe did and the group that he grew up with, you as part of that group, and what you guys did. And Zakiah Saltzman not playing football till 7th grade because his dad was worried about, being youth and all that. It's all the people put together talking about Joe and where he came from and how he is. And he's, I think it's a great read. You can find it on Amazon. Yeah. The Joe Burrow, it's Bulldog to Bengal, and the Joe Burrow story told through the eyes of his hometown.
Awesome.
And Scott Burson and I myself, I co-authored it with him, and Stanley tells me all the time. He said, "Dad, you're a published author." I said, when we started this book, I told him, I said, I ain't read 5 books in my life, but if it had nothing to do with electrical work, or fishing or hunting. Why am I reading it? You know what I'm saying? I don't have free time to just sit and read a book. Yeah. That's not me. But all right, Tyler, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Sam. Appreciate you.
All right, man.
Awesome.